are these people?
Um, so I will say this, I'll preface this that those of you who know, we did have a little beef with the Grayzone a few weeks ago, with Wyatt Reed.
Yeah, mainly me, but it's okay.
With you.
Wyatt will get over it.
You know, yeah, you've gotten over it. I'm still getting over it.
Whatever.
But and I know people, and again, shout out to people, in our community who checked in on me, checked in on the network and all of us after that Twitter thing. You guys are wonderful in your support and care.
You done messed up, what? I'm sorry.
But we're going to be the bigger people, easy to cancel people who, obviously don't respect others. But at the end of the day, a good story is a good story, and good journalism is good journalism, no matter who it is. So, so we are going to do this story because I think we learn stuff here, even among each other, and we want you guys to learn some stuff. So Chanda, I know you said you don't know much. You will learn something tonight.
I will, for sure.
As with our audience, that's what we're about here. But I did want to bring this up. As I said, I've been holding on to this for about a month now.
Alex and Kit do great work.
Alex and Kit published this article. From Chi-Town Bagman to Ecowas chairman, meet the former money launderer leading the push to invade Niger. So it brings me no pleasure to kind of report on this, because this is almost a stereotypical African president who is corrupt as hell. That's what the stereotype, but unfortunately Tinubu does fit that stereotype, and speaking to other Nigerians, they pretty much agree. So, and as a person of Nigerian ancestry, I'm going to claim my heritage and say that this dude is no good. So, but before that, we're going to look at African Stream. They did basically a summary of Tinubu, just give you an idea of what the issues that surround him. And then Alex and Kid get into it more in depth.
Cool.
So go ahead, Reef.
Yep.
Who is Bola Tinubu? The Nigerian president and chairman of Ecowas has a past shrouded in mystery. Now he's trying to invade Niger. African Stream spoke to Alex Rubenstein and Kit Klarenberg of the Grayzone, whose recent investigation delved into the shady past of one of Nigeria's wealthiest men, to try to understand the motives of a man who many refer to as the mother of the market. Over the past 3 decades, Tinubu has played a prominent role in Nigeria's politics, serving as the senator and the governor of the Lagos state. His close ties with the US Embassy have also been subject to scrutiny. But something perhaps equally as sinister is his rise to power.
Bola Tinubu showed up in Chicago with an unknown past on a student visa, and after some studying, although he's lied apparently about his educational background, he started laundering money for a Chicago heroin gang, claiming that one of its leaders was his cousin. It appears that he was able to make a good deal of money from this enterprise and had a portion seized by the U.S. government. As the investigation ramped up, he went back to Nigeria and began his political career.
After being appointed ECOWAS chairman last month, Tinubu promised to promote economic inclusivity and integration. Yet the role of ECOWAS in West Africa has historically been the opposite.
ECOWAS is theoretically meant to maximize member states' collective bargaining power. But actually, it's a bloc that makes it easier for former imperial powers in the region, like France and Britain, to exploit and enfeeble its constituent countries. It imposes strict, Western-approved legal and financial frameworks upon members, and any state deviating from them can expect to be severely punished. In January 2022, ECOWAS imposed sanctions on Mali. This was following the military overthrow of its corrupt, unpopular Western-backed government. This prompted huge street protests in support of the new government by average Malians, who were also very, very, very supportive of their government's efforts to rid their country of malign foreign influence, such as banning French media.
So where does West Africa go from here? The future is uncertain. And while Tinubu may be leading the charge against Niger in West Africa, his day in the sun may not last forever.
Bola Tinubu is the perfect imperial puppet because he has the shady past, because the United States is able to exert leverage over him. He's been embroiled in so many corruption scandals that the moment that he becomes no longer useful to the United States and its Western allies, they can put him in prison. They can do with whatever they want with him, and they can ruin his life. But for now, he's useful leading this Western-backed operation against Niger.
Well, all right. So they basically gave a summary of this guy. They go into it more in depth. So that's what we're going to look at now at their article, and kind of delve a little bit more about his past. But so yeah, it's as you know, given that this is a gray zone, and Kit and Alex, no point cutting anything, because yeah, everything just basically connects with each other. So, but anyway, let's see. Do you mind zooming in a bit, Reef?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. All right. So since the overthrow of Niger's US-friendly government, West African nations of the Ecowas bloc have fronted an invasion of their neighbor. Before leading the charge for intervention, Ecowas chair Bola Tinubu spent years laundering millions for heroin dealers in Chicago, and has been since ensnared in numerous corruption scandals. Hours after Niger's Western-backed leader was detained by the country's presidential guard on July 28th, Nigerian president and chair of ECOWAS, Bola Tinubu, leapt into action, warning that the group of nations will not tolerate any situation that incapacitates a democratically elected government installed by the U.S., by the way.
Yeah, whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the chairperson of ECOWAS, I state without equivocation that Nigeria stands firmly with the elected government in Niger.
Of course I do.
2 days later, ECOWAS imposed several severe sanctions on Niger, and the bloc issued a stark ultimatum. If the newly inaugurated junta won't reinstate the ousted president in a week's time, the group's pro-Western Africa governments will, by military means, if necessary.
If necessary, right. Well, they're going to fuck around and find out.
Well, how old is this? Was it? This says in a week's time, right?
This was written at the end of July, so
yeah,
a week's come and gone.
Well,
right.
Yeah, so so they fucked around and they
didn't
did
find out.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And it hasn't worked so well to Niger's benefit. But anyway, on Saturday, July 6th, one day before the deadline, ECOWAS leaders approved a plan to invade the country with the ominous caveat that they are not going to tell the coup plotters when and where they are going to strike. If ECOWAS gets its way, member states Benin, Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Libya, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Senegal, and Togo will be pressured to send their soldiers to invade Niger.
Yeah.
These developments have pressed the typically overlooked West African country of Niger into the Western media spotlight. But if hostilities break out, it wouldn't be just one single impoverished African state in the crosshairs.
It'll be anything with resources we can steal. You know.
Right.
So...
Neighboring Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea, which are also governed by military administrations that have recently seized power by force, have all warned that any attack on Niger will be viewed as an attack on them too. If their ECOWAS rivals make their first move, the nations which mainstream media have dubbed Africa's coup belt have pledged to unleash their military forces as well, an announcement which should end any illusions that restoring the country's previous president would be a painless process. Leading the pro-Western coalition is the president of its most powerful country, Nigeria, Bola Tinubu. One of Nigeria's wealthiest men, the source of the scandal-plagued president's fortune remains unclear. Documents reviewed by the Grayzone revealed Tinubu as a longtime U.S. asset who is named as an accomplice in a massive drug running operation that saw him launder billions on behalf of a heroin dealing relative.
Nice.
For over 30 years, Bola Tinubu has been a major force in Nigeria's political scene and country's economy, with local nicknames ranging from the mother of the market to Godfather of Lagos and the Lion of the Bordelian. But his power inside Nigeria went largely unnoticed by international audiences until this year, when he became ECOWAS's chair after winning the presidency in an election closely tracked by the U.S. government. Gee, I wonder why.
So this guy's a Guaido, basically.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
we have one in every country, don't we? I mean, just
Yeah.
name a place, and
Right.
there's the American bobblehead.
They just got rid of one in
especially
Niger.
global-
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just in the global south, basically, like a lot of these guys.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, as president, Tinubu quickly instituted a regime of economic reforms backed by the US-controlled International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Over the course of Tinubu's political career in Nigeria, the African operator has cultivated a close relationship with the US Embassy. According to a slew of classified State Department cables released by WikiLeaks, American officials heavily relied on Tinubu's assessments of the domestic political landscape. The ECOWAS chair's early life is shrouded in mystery, and even his exact age is unknown. Nearly every detail of Tinubu's personal history prior to his appearance in Chicago on a student visa is in dispute, including his legal birth name.
If that is your real
Kinda like
name.
Obama. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
Records
saying
from
he's gay.
Chicago
Is that
State-
what you're saying? God.
What?
He's gay.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
He's gay.
No, we need 20 years to find that stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Records from Chicago State University show that Tinubu received a degree in business administration in 1979. In the following years, media reports indicate that Tinubu was employed in some capacity at a number of major US-based multinationals, including Mobil Oil Nigeria, consulting firm Deloitte, and GTE, which was the largest communication and utilities company in the US at the time. The few details about the Nigerian president's early exploits which can be confirmed, many are derived from a 1993 court docket named Tinubu as an accomplice in a massive Midwestern drug smuggling operation. As journalist David Hundeland has detailed, and Nico actually spoke to him.
Recently,
he's a reporter based in, so court documents from the U.S. District Court's Northern District of Illinois make it clear that Tinubu amassed a small fortune laundering money for a heroin trafficking relative in Chicago, and that U.S. government officials ultimately seized well over $1 million from various bank accounts registered under the current Nigerian president's name. A 1993 report by IRS Special Agent Kevin Moss explained that there is probable cause to believe that drugs in certain bank accounts controlled by Bola Tinubu represent proceeds of drug trafficking. Therefore, these funds are forfeitable to the United States. In the documents, Moss described an extremely close working relationship between the future Nigerian president and two Nigerian heroin dealers named excuse my butchering of these names. Adodun. Oh, you need to sit back in.
Okay. Abadoin, Olasui,
Olasui, Abijeli, and Anage Bolega Muzi Akande, the latter of whom was listed as Tinubu's cousin on an application for a vehicle loan. According to bank reports, when Bola Tinubu first came to First Heritage Bank in December 1989 to open the accounts, he was introduced to them by Adebogega Muze Akande, who at that time maintained an account at the bank. What's more, bank records indicate that Bola Tinubu also opened a joint checking account in his name and the name of his wife, Oluremi Tinubu, who had previously opened a joint bank account also at this bank with Audrey Akande, the wife of Adeboyega Muze Akande, Moss explained. In several of the applications, the addresses used by Tinubu exactly match those previously used by Akande.
Okay. I'll zoom for this. Here you go.
Yeah, you have to for this because it's a little blurry. For the reasons set forth above, there is probable cause to believe that the funds in the accounts held by First Heritage Bank, Citibank, and Citibank International in the name of Bola Tinubu and Compass Finance and Investment Company Limited represent property that was involved in transactions in violation of all of that.
USC 1956 and 57. Or is property traceable to such property represents the proceeds of drug trafficking, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know all of that. Yeah. So
an individual money market account and now account at First Heritage Bank. Special agent noted in the application it was stated that his address was 7504 South Stewart, Chicago, Illinois, the same address used previously by Akande.
Right.
Oh, I gotta go back.
Actually, go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Back records disclosed that 5 days after the account was opened on January 4th, 1990, $80,000 was deposited into the now account at First Heritage Bank by wire transfer through First Chicago of Bank One Houston, the report continues. According to the IRS, the money was sent by Akande. But the Nigerian president's financial dealings with the heroin traffickers went even further, according to the IRS special agent. He wrote that Citibank's records documented 2 additional corporate accounts held in the name of Compass Finance and Investment Company Limited, which were controlled by Bola Tinubu. When Tinubu opened these accounts, he provided a memorandum of association and articles of association, which identified Muse Abeboega Akande and Abelundon Osasui Abelei as directors of Compass Finance and Investment Company Limited, Moss wrote. In the end, Tinubu somehow managed to deposit over $660,000 in his First Heritage Bank account in 1990 and more than $1.2 million the next year, all while claiming to take home just $2,400 a month from his position at Mobil Oil Nigeria. Actually, that was a lot of money at that time in 1990.
That was a lot of
that's
money
a
back in the
lot of
90s.
money.
A
moving,
million, yeah.
Moving.
Back then.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing for that money to sit. It's another to move it between like 5 different accounts. Like, no one noticed.
That's what they do.
No one noticed all that. Like, Chicago's known for following money of mob guys. Like, they didn't notice this shit. What happened?
Right.
The RICO Act.
Given,
Yeah, come on.
Right.
Yeah, especially given that he was an immigrant at the time, on a student.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, they crawl up your butt. Yeah, come on.
Which means that this part, the Mobil Oil Nigeria, is far more important to our needs than heroin dealing, which you know, we'll overlook all that.
Well, they go hand in hand. If you go back and you look at the Clintons and Little Rock and what was going through there and how it was building the Epstein empire. I mean, they're all connected political party wise, who they're supporting in these countries. I mean, yeah, like I said, they have a handpicked one for each country. And it sounds like he had a good deal with being able to, you know, that kind of money in the early 90s, that back then a millionaire was a big deal still.
Well, yeah, especially given that, again, immigrant, like, like,
well, and think of how much
again,
this,
we don't know what
how much we prioritize heroin dealing from the Middle East because we want their oil.
Yep.
Same thing. Like, this is just a different place, you know?
Yeah.
So,
well, also keep in mind, Nigeria's biggest export is oil.
Yes.
So, you know,
that's the one on the books. You know, weapons and other stuff. They also do a lot of.
Right, but that's also significant in terms of our dealings here. Well, in America, like, that's what we wanted. So it could be very well being that Tinubu was not necessarily a plant, but essentially placed in that position, you know, as we will see later for his role now in terms of
he's a figurehead that they put in there that they control. That's what they do always. We're going to put you in this position, and if you're a good boy and take our money and do what we say, then we'll move you up to the next position where we need you. This is classically exactly what Zelensky is.
Yes. Yeah. Nepotism babies at the finest. You know. So So
anyway, let's move on. As the investigation into the money laundering scheme began to gain traction, Tinubu left the US and returned to Nigeria. Ultimately, Moss was able to speak to Tinubu by telephone on a number of occasions, and a special agent reported that the future president initially acknowledged his personal and financial dealings with the pair of drug traffickers. But in late January of 1992, Tinubu advised agents investigating this matter that he had no business association or financial relationship with Abeli or Kande, Moss wrote. This information contradicted his prior statements on January 13, 1992, when he advised law enforcement officers that the money used to open the account at First Heritage Bank had come from Akande. Back in Nigeria, Tinubu had already begun to transition into the political arena. By 1992, he had been elected to the Senate, and in 1999, he became governor of Lagos State, a position he retained until 2007. At some point in his tenure, Tinubu established a relationship with the U.S. Embassy, which would last for years to come, according to a trove of diplomatic cables released by WikiLeaks.
Thank you, Julian.
Bank records.
Yeah, exactly.
Bank records disclosed that 5-day. There we go. But even his State Department allies couldn't help noticing Tinubu's penchant for dishonesty. One particularly noteworthy cable pointed out that the politician was known to play fast and loose with the facts and has been caught in the past embellishing his educational achievements.
That's them saying that. That's the cable pointed out. That's them. They're like, oh no, he lies a lot. You know?
Yeah, he's shady. He's
like, shady. Be careful. Don't believe him. You know?
In the end, however, Tinubu's usefulness seemed to outweigh his casual relationship with the truth, and the future Nigerian president went on to provide American officials with a near continuous assessment of the political situation in his country. One typically intimate meeting with Tinubu ended with the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria commenting, "As always, we found his take on the national political scene to be insightful."
And a lie. Yeah.
When the cables came to light in 2011, many Nigerians were shocked at the candor with which their elected officials spoke to Washington's envoys. The willingness of our elites to indulge unsolicited information about the U.S. Undisclosed information about the nation to U.S. officials portrays an infantile thirst for parental dictatorship. Nigerian-American professor and columnist Farouk Krogi wrote. Though Tinubu appeared to have escaped justice for his alleged role in a herring trafficking conspiracy, accusations of corruption would continue to dog the Ecowas chair throughout his political career in Nigeria. Since leaving office as governor of Lagos in 2007, Tinubu picked every subsequent winning candidate, according to German broadcaster DW, which noted earlier this year that the tycoon is believed to be one of Nigeria's richest politicians, but the source of his wealth is unknown. In recent years, clues about the origins of the fortune amassed by one of Africa's leading political players have begun to come into light. In 2009, Tinubu came under investigation by the Metropolitan Police of London, who were probing allegations that the politician had pooled money with two other Nigerian governors to create a front company known as the African Development Fund Incorporation. Investigators alleged the unusual business arrangement was actually a joint effort to illegally acquire shares of Econet, a telecommunications firm founded by U.S. intelligence asset and Gates Foundation trustee Shrive Bashiwa. But attempts to probe the legitimacy of the transactions in question was sidelined when the Nigerian federal government stonewalled the British investigation, which ultimately concluded without a single arrest. To this day, Nigerian authorities have yet to release the evidence requested by UK authorities.
I wonder why.
In 2011, Tinubu was tried before the Code of Conduct Tribunal in Nigeria for illegally operating 16 foreign bank accounts. Eager to avoid the embarrassment he previously suffered when being photographed in court, the Ecowas chair reportedly refused to take his place at the dock in a judicial hearing. But the unwelcome attention appears to have done little to rein in the political's extravagant taste, and Tinubu once again found himself embroiled in a corruption scandal following an investigation into the luxurious 7,000 square foot mansion where the Nigerian president stays when receiving medical care in London.
Could you imagine, Care Bear, if, I don't know, someone being indicted for treasonous things just didn't show up? Like, I'm not going to be there for the hearing. Like, what they would say. But we're more than willing to work with this guy who's unbelievably corrupt. Even we say this, right? Like, but yet, you know, like, other people are the dictators. So, okay.
Well, I like how they say his relationship with the U.S. Embassy lasted for years, and then wonder who's protecting him.
Right. I wonder. It couldn't have been us or Bill Gates. Why is Bill Gates connected to every corrupt asshole?
Everything.
Why? Can we figure that out first? Like, can you follow?
Well, we know what that's about. That goes down to eugenics at the end of the day. The bottom line is he wants
couldn't have anything to do with a new world order, the Illuminati.
Exactly.
Not to get too Alex Jonesy in here for a minute, but you know, okay. I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, there's more. But the suspicious confluence of money and influence didn't end with the mysterious mansion in London. During Nigeria's 2019 general election, footage of armored trucks entered Tinubu's residence went viral on social media, and the incident was widely seen as proof that the politician was engaged in a fraudulent vote buying scheme. But Tinubu remained defiant, telling reporters, I keep money wherever I want.
I'm rich,
Excuse
bitch.
Excuse me, is it my money or government money? He asked. If I don't represent any agency or government and I have money to spend, if I have money, if I like, I give it to the people free of charge, he insisted. This January, the official explanation for the people evolved again when one of his party's representatives told a Nigerian TV station that the armored trucks in question had simply missed their way and arrived at the wrong address. As why Tinubu had seemingly admitted to dispensing cash to the public, the party's organizing secretary in Lagos offered the bemused presenters an equally improbable explanation. He said that jokingly.
Yeah, it was a joke. Don't worry about it.
It was a joke.
The money is there.
While Ecowas was officially founded, what were you going to say, Reef?
That's just fucking, like, they're so stupid. Like, do they think we're dumb? They must. They must think we're all
yes, they do.
Idiots.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
God, that's like, that's like a Home Alone plot. Like, that's, anyway, continue. It's fucking bullshit as always. What else is new?
While Ecowas was officially founded by the Treaty of Lagos in 1975, its official history notes that bloc's origins date back to the creation of the CFA franc in 1945, which consolidated France's West African empire into a single currency nation. Hold on to that.
Yeah, we'll get into that more.
Publicly, the move was described as a benevolent attempt to shield these colonies from the consequences of the French franc's sharp devaluation in 1945, following the creation of the US-dominated Bretton Woods system. As a French finance
minister,
finance, it's kind of hard to read that, said at the time, in a show of her generosity and selfishness, metropolitan France, wishing not to impose on her fairway daughters the consequences of her own poverty, is setting different exchange rates for their currency. In reality, the introduction of the CFA franc meant that Paris was able to maintain highly unequal trading relationships with its African colonies at a time when its economy was ravaged by World War II and its overseas empire was rapidly disintegrating. The currency made it cheap for member states to import from France and vice versa, but prohibitively expensive for them to export anything anywhere else.
Yep.
Which we've talked about a few times.
This forced dependency in Francophone West Africa created a captive market for the French and by extension the rest of Europe. That dynamic, which has stunted regional economic development for decades, persists to this day. The CFA franc's continued dominance ensures West African states remain under the economic and political control of France. Those African nations are powerless to enact meaningful policy changes as they lack control over their own monetary policy. That the currency features so prominently in the authorized history of ECOWAS is instructive because the bloc has long been criticized as an extension of French imperialism. It was not for nothing that in 1960, then French President Charles de Gaulle made membership of the CFA franc a precondition for decolonization in Africa. Though ECOWAS is theoretically meant to maximize member states' collective bargaining power by fostering interstate economic and political cooperation, such harmonization makes it easier for former imperial powers like France to exploit and enfeeble their constituent countries. Thus, the bloc imposes a strict, Western-approved legal and financial framework upon its members, and any state deviating from these rules is harshly punished. In January 2022, ECOWAS imposed strict sanctions on Mali, prompting thousands to take the streets in support of the military government that seized power in January the previous year.
Yep.
The new government's efforts to purge the country from malign foreign influence saw a complete ban of French media imposed, a decision which was slammed by the UN, but cheered by average Malians. ECOWAS applied similar measures to Burkina Faso in response to a September 2022 military coup, which saw Paul-Henri Santiago Damiba removed just after 8 months in power. Though Damiba himself seized by military coup, there was little condemnation from Western officials and few suggestions that ECOWAS imposed sanctions, perhaps due to the ousted leader's pro-Western orientation and status as a graduate of multiple elite US military and State Department training courses.
Another one.
Another one. Since 1990, ECOWAS has raised 7 separate conflicts in West Africa in order to protect the West's preferred despots across the region. Meanwhile, between 1960 and 2020, Paris launched 50 separate overt interventions in Africa. Figures for clandestine activities conducted during this time are unavailable, but the country's fingerprints are plastered all over multiple rigged elections, coups, and assassinations that has sustained complaint, corrupt governments in power throughout the continent.
Yep.
As President Jacques Chirac remarked in 2008, without Africa, France will slide down into the rank of a third world power. The perspective was reaffirmed in a 2013 French state report, Africa is our future. Indeed, the mere existence of anti-imperialist governments anywhere in the region is intolerable to France.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Luckily for the French elite, compromised figures like Bola Tinubu are still on hand to do their dirty work for them.
They just tell them themselves. Like,
yes.
They go, oh, we definitely need, they're going to be, if we're not there, it's going to be a third world country. Well, like, let's find out then. Let's give it a shot and see. Right. Wait, they got uranium. Wait, hold on. Like, we might need that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll make them a better country. They might think you won't.
Right.
So,
but like I said, keep in mind for the next segment, because, and I saw someone in the chat say, like, BRICS is in trouble, essentially. And we've had, yes. So Ghostwright said the West will infiltrate BRICS Plus is what they do. And that may be happening, considering what India is up to. In what I'm going
and
to
the Vatican.
Later, so.
I agree. They're trying to sneak in there too.
Go Star, you nailed it, because that's exactly what they do. The West infiltrates everything, and they started laying those seeds years ago for some of this. I mean, look at how far back with this guy we're looking. You know,
yeah,
right.
They've got their little tentacles wiggled into every country. I don't care where you're at. You could be looking at the global South. You could be looking at Africa. You could be looking at Europe. It doesn't matter. Our tentacles are there and
everywhere.
We've had free reign for our deep state to do whatever they want in any country they want without repercussions
for 60 years.
Right.
60 years at least. I mean,
openly
back when they were the
admitted
OSI,
hacking other countries' phone lines, stealing their information and data. Like, no one cares. Do whatever you want, America. It's going to be fine. Well, turns out some countries it might do something.
I gotta tell you, Collin, I appreciated this segment because I mean, the most I get is maybe Convo Couch, or if Richie's talking about it, Richie Medhurst, of course, you know. But for most Americans, especially us down here in the trailer parks, we're too busy trying to live and figure out how we're going to pay rent and get the next power bill covered to be able to go in and really learn the history of all these countries, you know, and how long they've been colonized by France and by Europe. And as a result of the end of World War II, you know, so much of what's happening now and what's coming undone is the crap that they tied together with a big bow at the end of World War II.
It's all connected. We try to tell people foreign policy is domestic policy is foreign policy is like it's all the same.
And what we're going here is, and again, I'll go into this in the next segment that I do, because again, my friend of mine kind of helped. Well, hopefully he'll help me out a lot more with it, but because he had some stuff he wanted to share regarding what's happening in India, but it's everywhere. This whole corruption,
India's so in trouble. I know.
Seemingly among the best of the best in terms of politicians and presidents throughout the world, they all have their hand. Many of them regarding, you know, that's connected to neocolonialism in the West. So, you know, so that's why I'm a little concerned about BRICS now, which I've always had I had concerns about it, but I think more of those issues regarding BRICS that I've said on the show before are more or less confirmed, just given, you know, politicians in these countries are playing both sides. And I've seen that in Africa for sure, given Tinubu and then other, you know, presidents, prime ministers in Africa. But, you know, but it's happening everywhere.
Well, that's the thing. It's like people talk about the globalists, right? But then they don't actually practice looking at what's happening globally. Like, what is money doing globally? Look at what the Rothschilds spend their money on. Look at where Gates is putting their money into. Like, look, there's a reason why they're funding things like making bug milk in, like, you know, like South African, like in South Africa. Like, oh, let's figure out how to get them to eat bugs. Okay. Why are they doing that there? Anyway, we'll get into some of that a bit with this story.